Content warning for the video. It deals with topics that aren't really that viewer friendly. So you have been warned. If you don't want to watch it, go on ahead. I recommend, if you are sensitive, not watch the video. And also, no graphic imagery or stuff of that nature is shown, just talked about. What happened at Jonestown? You probably know what happened. It was a massacre. But I want to talk about how it happened. How did 1,000 people get convinced into giving up their lives? So, this entire incident, I guess you can call it, starts with one man, Jim Jones. Jim Jones was a religious leader in his, group, and he created the People's Temple. This was, basically a church, and this man was a communist, and he wasn't racist, which was pretty impressive at the time. Not to say that this man was a good person at all, but at the time that the People's Temple was active, racism was a big thing. Like, basically everyone was to some extent racist and had other, biases, which created a large group of people who were not part of society, as in undesirables, quote unquote, which led to them being attracted to Jim Jones because he had a very open mind about it. Like, he adopted kids of every color, and he called his family the Rainbow Family or something along those lines. And he did preach about how equality should exist and, people should be treated as such. This created almost a parasitic relation, as in Jones would give these people a place to belong, and these people will give themselves to Jones, basically do whatever he wants. The People's Temple transitioned from a normal church with a bit of quirks to a full-on cult. Now, that's all fine and dandy. Nothing too serious happens. But then Jim Jones started being scrutinized, even though at the time he was praised for being open-minded and, being this big rights for people of color kind of guy. He started being criticized for being a communist because, he was a communist. So he decided to just leave. He shifted his entire operation to a South American country, Guyana, and he just bought a plot and asked all of the people to leave with him. And now these people were dependent on him, like they depended on him for a community. That's how most cults work. They get you with the in-group, and you don't want to leave the in-group. That you don't want that. They make an in-group and make you feel like you're important in that in-group, and that this is where you belong, this is your people, and everyone is against you. That's how cults work. And so Jim Jones moved the People's Temple to Guyana, creating his Jonestown. Now, from the outside, this was a socialist paradise. But that was just a lie. It wasn't. And this became much more apparent when the American government sent people to check on the Americans who were living in Jonestown. And that's when the truth came out. That Jonestown was barely functioning because the people who, moved there didn't know how to farm, didn't know how to do shit. And people were living in giant, basically dormitories where multiple families would just live together because they didn't have enough space for individual housing. And they had a community hall of sorts where they would perform their rituals. Jim Jones decided who you would marry and what you could do, but those rules didn't apply to him. He could do anyone. Well, it's a cult. What do you expect? I mean, I told you in the cold open what happened. It ain't a paradise. It was a piece of shit. Not that they didn't question him. They weren't stupid people, obviously. But they were scared to question him because questioning meant you would probably get murked in your sleep. Because they were a scary group of people. As I said, cults are scary, like real scary. Because most of them were so invested in Jim Jones and the dream, and so they were scared to talk up. But a few brave souls decided they gotta leave. Shit ain't working. It ain't. And so, as the American delegation arrived to, check up on the place, they announced that if anyone wants to go home, they can come along. And so, a few people decided to go with them. As they, checked out the entire place, they realized how bad everything was because well, most of our information comes from this delegation, which had their reporter film everything. A decent chunk of the people were just staring. And man, looking at the footage is kind of haunting, knowing what happens to them. It's different. And so after this incident happens, this was basically the middle of nowhere, so they had to move by plane, and so they go back to the helicopter. And now there were, a wide range of members who came along with the delegation who wanted to go back. One of them was a senior ranking member, and it was kind of odd to see such a high ranking member choose to go home. But the plane didn't have enough space for all the people, so they were going in shifts. As soon as this person got on the plane, he started shooting. He got 2 or 3 people before he got stopped. And as soon as, this man started shooting, Jim Jones' own personal militia started firing and killed a couple of people. And we come back to Jonestown. Jim Jones is giving his speech. Roughly, he says, I know that those people who left us, something bad happened to them. I can't tell you how, but I know. I mean, that's a clear sign that the guy did it. And then he says something along the lines of, them's gonna get us because we did this. They're gonna think that we ruined their lives, and they ain't gonna let us live here. And so we gotta leave. And by leaving, he meant, offing themselves. Now, you may be thinking, how did 918 people, get together and basically off themselves altogether? It was because the way they off themselves was ritualistic. As in, usually on normal days, they would drink something and Jim Jones would say, this is poison, go drink it, as a test of loyalty. And at that point, people just kind of assumed that this wasn't real because they had done this routine so many times. They were wrong. Jim Jones personally created the poison. He mixed several poisons, medicines, all he could find into a vat with Kool-Aid and Flavor Aid to make it palatable. He knowingly killed his children, not just his own children, all the children who were there, all the women who were there, all the elderly who were there, and every single person who was there. This man is evil. I don't like to insert my own opinions, but I just have to. This guy was evil. You can make your own opinion. And I have heard the recording, and I'm not going to, show you because it's kind of hard to hear. This man was insane enough to record the entire event. So he mixed up the poison, then distributed it, and then made everyone drink it. Now, it's not like everyone was on board. Some people weren't. And the people who weren't, well, got shot. Or, were choked out by a plastic bag. Both. And now, the audio clip that I've heard regarding this, you could hear children screaming as they drink the poison, clearly in pain. Jim Jones is saying, "This is the fastest way to heaven. They may be in pain for now, but this is for the short term. It ain't gonna last. It's salvation." Bullshit like that. There were a few survivors. I sadly can't remember the names of survivors, but the way that they survived is pretty interesting in my opinion. One of them said to the guard, "Yeah, bruv, I just gotta take a piss, so would you let me go?" And the guard didn't let him go, but the guard wasn't fully attentive on him, and he made a break for it. He was like shot at a bit. I don't think got shot, but he ran. And another man, an elderly man, also survived. He was a bit hard of hearing, so he didn't hear the first announcement of, gather in the main hall so we can drink poison. He didn't hear that. And when he saw armed guards, checking everything, he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna dip." And he just hid under his bed and he survived. Now, entire world doesn't know that this happened. The delegation that got shot at did survive somehow, and they did go back home to America, and then they brought with them a recovery party to do something about this murderous cult. When they come to Jonestown, they see the carnage. It's just bodies. Again, I've seen the footage. I'm not gonna show it, but trust me, it's just bodies. And in total, 900 to 1,000 people that was found dead. And again, as I said, that included children, women, and elderly. Everyone you could imagine got caught in this. Now, this is where the term "don't drink the Kool-Aid" comes from, which means don't just don't take everything at face value. Use that noggin of yours. And I think it's a pretty apt description. For the closing points, I don't really like putting my opinion into these stories at all, but this kind of stuff just kind of scares me. Sad, but it's more scary because people, if you convince them, can do anything. And that's the scary part. And the sad part is, so many people unknowingly gave their lives for a madman's fantasy. Because I assure you, they got nothing out of it. They got nothing out of, marking themselves. Nothing at all. If you are associated with any sort of cult or organization of that sort, heed the story and look at yourself. Look at the organization you're in. Does anything that I just told you in the story match just your situation? And if it does, get the hell out of there, lest you want to be the next Jonestown. That's about it for me. I really don't like talking about this kind of shit, but I think it should be talked about, just to create awareness. But yeah, bye.